Welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. Recently, I was thinking about the concept of the one-hit wonder, partially because there's this wonderful YouTube channel called Todd in the Shadows that does all these video essays on one-hit wonders, but partially because I was thinking, in the long-term public memory, is there actually that much difference between so-called one-hit wonders, that's bands who they have one really big songs and never have any success again, and non-one-hit wonders? Because it feels like there are all these great bands where we, as in the general public, as in not their hardcore fans, really only know one song by them. Like, I'm a huge Neil Diamond fan, but it occurs to me I never hear a Neil Diamond song on the radio other than Sweet Caroline. I'm not sure how many of the, even huge hits from his day by Neil Diamond, Cracklin' Rosie, Holly Holy, I Am, I Said, Brother Loves Traveling Salvation Show, that people who are not like big 60s, 70s music nerds can even name. And there are a lot of musicians that feel like this. How many Carly Simon songs other than You're So Vain get played? How many Kool and the Gang songs other than Celebration get played? And how many Earth, Wind, and Fire songs other than September get played? So Earth, Wind, and Fire, I always had the sense they were a pretty important band, but I didn't know any songs of theirs other than September. So I looked for a CD of theirs, and I eventually decided, since I was starting from the beginning, I'll start with a greatest hits record. And even though, generally when I'm doing album reviews, I might want to talk about true albums and not compilations, I decided in this one, even though it's a greatest hits record, it counts. Firstly, the first track on it, Gotta Get You Into My Life, was a song that Earth, Wind, and Fire had done for a movie recently, which I also made a video about. So I figured, okay, this is the album that song's associated with. And then this apparently was the album that they did September for. September did not have a home album for this. So even though it's a greatest hits album, it's one of those greatest hits album that adds to the canon. So I figured, why not take my dive into Earth, Wind, and Fire and do a review of one of the more important greatest hits albums of all time. So the first track on this one is that Beatles cover, Gotta Get You Into My Life. What I've always said about that Beatles song is, it has ecstatic instrumentation, and Earth, Wind, and Fire being a band that consists of a brass section, they take that jazzy feel to the next level, and they also added some groovy backup singing. My only problem with the song has always been that I find Paul McCartney's lyrics for it a bit underwhelming. There's not quite enough verbosity to it, which is why I like the French version sung by Johnny Hallyday better. Maybe to French listeners, that one sounds equally airy, but I feel like it just sounds more complete. It has a fuller sound in French. Earth, Wind, and Fire, they try and make it a bit groovier than the McCartney version. If you appreciate that sort of 70s, more disco affect, it adds that. But otherwise, I have sort of the same feeling about the song as I do about the Beatles version. Track number 2 is called Fantasy. So as I said, I had heard September before checking out this greatest hits album. I love September, but now at least there's competition for my favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire tune with this one called Fantasy. So it has great production, and while the vocals are largely falsetto, which means they're sung by Philip Bailey, the way it works with Earth, Wind, and Fire, is my understanding, is that the founder of the band, Maurice White, is generally the singer if the vocals sound a bit more normal, but if they're like a pure falsetto thing, they're generally this guy, Philip Bailey. Now, sometimes the falsetto works for me, sometimes it's a bit much, but why I think it really works so well on this album is the instrumentation below it largely has a kind of bassy feel. And this gives Philip Bailey's falsetto vocal not just that magical high sound, but it's like really taking you above earth into this magical fantasy place. So great space age kind of song, and it certainly adds to that feel if you look it up live and see Philip Bailey's great space age outfit. Track number 3 is called Can't Hide Love. This one has kind of similar instrumentation to Fantasy, but has more of a jazzy feel. It's a song by someone, I think, outside of the band named Skip Scarborough, and it's pleasant to hear, but it never quite gets you into a rhythm. It has more of this general, broadly relaxing, jazzy ambiance without giving you the punch of a chorus. Its lyrics are simple. They're about the impossibility of controlling love, but I guess the complexity of the melody adds a kind of depth to this lyrics. You can't control this melody, and you can't control love. Track number 4 is called Love Music. This was previously unreleased, so another reason to justify starting with this greatest hits album rather than a true album. This song is also by that guy, Skip Scarborough, but it has a different sound. It is more of a powerful funk bass line. So as I was saying earlier, the falsetto for Earth, Wind, and Fire works with me when it's in contrast to non-falsetto singing or non-falsetto sounds. This one here, I found the falsetto maybe dominated a bit too much lice, but there's this one line that's not sung in falsetto, followed by a ba-da-ba-ba in falsetto. And as a result, it created that effect that I like so much of the conversation between the falsetto singer and the non-falsetto singer. Track number 5 is called Getaway. This one is a full sound. It's kind of percussion dominated, while the falsetto singer urges you to escape. Track number 6 is called That's the Way of the World. We now have another song credited to the founding brothers again, Maurice and Verdine White, along with another songwriter called Charles Stepney. Again, you could look at these lyrics and say there's not much to them, but the production of the song is so complete. It just makes what could look like fairly innocuous lyrics, it gives them a more serious character. And again, part of it is the dialogue between the falsetto and the non-falsetto singing. It also helps that even though the song isn't about too much per se, that it's framed as wise advice. That's the way of the world. Plant your flower and you grow a pearl. Child is born with a heart of gold. Way of the world makes his heart so cold. It's simple, but it resonates. Finally, we get to track 7, that most famous song that I assume a lot of you have heard. It's called September, and this is the perfect example of falsetto being in dialogue with non-falsetto. So Maurice White does the majority of the song here, but then that chorus comes in, and not only is it falsetto, but it just keeps repeating this 3-syllable nonsense word. Like the first few times I heard the song, I just called it the Body-O song. I didn't realize it was about a romance in September, because the falsetto really seizes its moment here, but the falsetto gets to shine because it's contrasted to White's strong but still more normal range kind of singing. It's just the perfect mix of sounds. The horns are very lively. They're not just playing accents, they're playing fast-paced. There's a reason this is their most famous song. I like the line in there that love was changing the mind of pretenders. So it's kind of like the Beatles with their song, The Word. Say the word and you'll be free, and later all you need is love. So Earth, Wind, and Fire may only have that one 4-letter word, love, to talk about, but they are determined to frame love as more than just some casual feeling, but as a philosophy, as a politics, a revolution. And just as the Beatles were trying to turn love into something more in the 60s, it feels like Earth, Wind, and Fire, who again appeared in that Beatles movie, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, singing a Beatles song, are part of the movement to continue that spirit with 70s music. Track number 8 is Shining Star. So this is the first writing credit I'm seeing to Philip Bailey on the record, along with Larry Dunn and Maurice White. This one is more of a funk track, but it plays with a lot of different sounds. It has a lot of different musical moments. There's a little organ solo. There's a bit of a silly vocal interlude at one point. I also like this little psychedelic moment where they go, so if you find yourself in need, why don't you listen to these words of heed? Be a giant or grain of sand, words of wisdom. Yes, I can. Basically, it's just a be yourself song. Everyone's a shiny star, but it's done in such a lively way, and with that weird little spiritual advice verse, it has just an ounce of something more there. Track number 9, Reasons. This is another memorable song because here the falsetto is really dominating, but unlike on lots of the other tracks where the falsetto sounds more like a sound effect, where it just turns Philip Bailey's voice into an instrument, here you can hear the words he's saying a bit more. He's playing more the role of falsetto lead singer rather than guy with a cool sound effect voice. This song is apparently popular at weddings, according to Wikipedia, and the band says they don't get why, because it's not a song about a deep romance. It's about a one-night stand. But I think, as with all the songs on this record, it seems like what Reasons is trying to do is musically show just how much emotion goes into all forms of love, whether it's serious love or one-night kind of love. So the song itself, it's about how people starting a one-night stand, they insist they have real reasons to do so. It's something powerful. But then after the sex, it feels like the reasons just vanish. You know, Bailey's passionate delivery gives you the intensity of those reasons. It doesn't put emphasis on the fact that ultimately those reasons feel like nothing. Such a sincere, powerful delivery. I would assume one of the greatest falsetto songs of all time. Track 10 on the record is called Sing a Song. I don't think it did enough to set itself apart from the other tracks. You know, it wasn't as powerful as Reasons for me. But it's a reminder that if you're down, you can always sing a song. The one thing I do like about it is that there's a part where they finally turn down the music and just hear the vocal harmonies. Overall, I had the experience when I was taking the time to appreciate the artistry in the songs. There was a lot I liked. Some of these songs are not going to stick with me. I mean, Fantasy was the real mind blower for me, and Reasons is one I think I'm going to have to come back to because it feels like such a unique performance. But when I think about why is it that Earth, Wind, and Fire have kind of been reduced to one-hit wonder status, or maybe two-hit wonder with September and Boogie Wonderland and sort of modern imagining, well, they aren't a band in the sense of the Beatles. No, Earth, Wind, and Fire, they're more like an orchestra. If you look at their performance, there's a huge group of people on stage. You have all the brass instruments, you have dancers. You know, you don't have one consistent frontman. Sometimes it's Maurice White, sometimes it's Philip Bailey, and then White and Bailey and Maurice White's brother, Verdian White, who also writes some of the songs. They don't play this typical frontman, you know, standing up front at the microphone with a guitar singing. You know, sometimes Maurice White is standing in the back playing percussion instruments. He also apparently played kalimba. And that's the impression you get with lots of these songs. You know, the vocals aren't so up front. It feels more like listening to a jazz fusion orchestra than it does listening to a rock or a pop group. So are Earth, Wind, and Fire a one-hit wonder band? Absolutely not. But September is also unique amongst the songs that they created because it sounds far more like a pop song than anything else on this record. Generally, Earth, Wind, and Fire seem to be a band that prioritized rich musical arrangements and beauty over the simplicity that it takes to get a hit. But I guess all that musical talent is what led to the creation of such a perfect hit. So let me know if you have any favorite Earth, Wind, and Fire songs that were not on this collection, or are there any Earth, Wind, and Fire albums you do like listening to as albums? I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von B. See you next time. So I looked for a CD